Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Doing well,
Good.
doing well. And hopefully we can do better because somebody's trying to get peace in Ukraine. But I'm not holding my breath yet.
Yeah.
Of course, I wish them well. But the one reason why I'm doubtful about it is who started this war, who's in the war, who's going to settle the war. And it's a war that involves Ukraine, but there's a story out now, United States and Russia getting together, they're going to end it. Well, the countries, I think it's called Ukraine. I wonder what they have to say. I wonder if they're going to endorse this. Well, they didn't ask them, so they don't know what they're doing, but that sort of is understandable, because how did the war start? Zelensky wasn't there pushing for the war, but all of a sudden we had that war breakout, and sorting out the players in this. We have Russia and America are very, very much involved. Russia obviously is directly involved and doing the fighting. United States runs the show really on the other side, because we have the money and we support the people who are trying to keep this war going on with Russia. But it looks like it's running out of steam, like many wars are. They run out of steam because people are exhausted, the people who suffer, the people who had to be silent, the people who pay for it, the people's families who have died, and there has been a lot of death and destruction in Ukraine. So the exhaustion is there, and it may be that they have a 28-point program that they've worked out, and they're going to present it, and it's in the process, and maybe that'll distract a little bit about a few other corruption scandals going on. But it sounds complicated. How it started, who the players are, who's benefiting, and Daniel, I see that this is so unnecessary. Of course, if we were non-interventionists, it would never have occurred. And now that we're in a mess, if they ask me what you should do to end it, with one thing in the program: just stop sending them any money. Don't participate in this war, and believe me, it would stop rather quickly.
As is most foreign policy action, there's sort of a convergence of different vectors that come together to make something happen. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing happen in Ukraine now. And there are a few, I think, big factors. Now, the first of them is very, very obvious Russian military gains on the battlefield. Not very much reported in the U.S. You have to be looking, behind the scenes. You have to be haunting Telegram like I do, and looking for alternative sources. But there's some clear Russian advances. Pokrovsk, which they've taken, is very, very important. Seversk, they're about to take, which is very important. They're just moving ahead all along the front lines. And at that same time, Ukraine is just simply running out of men. And I have a clip about that later. You have it on the one hand. And then you have this massive corruption scandal, which, conveniently or not, you have to wonder, are all conspiracies real? This one may be. Conveniently, the corruption scandal comes at a time where President Trump needs a win. He's got the Epstein problem that's not going away. His numbers are the worst they've ever been, very, very bad as he heads into November. The quote-unquote peace deal in Gaza is very amorphous. It's difficult to understand. So I think a lot of these things are converging right now and coalescing, and they may lead, and I hate to be optimistic, they may lead to a deal. Go to this first one. Now, this is being reported over multiple sources. Axios is one. This happens to be Politico on their regular morning, I think, column. This is Jack Blanchard and Dasha Burns reporting, and they talk about a peace deal as soon as this week, which is strange because the last we've heard, Dr. Paul, they weren't talking, but it appears they may have been talking. And the two journalists, if you go to the next one, they do make the point, well, this is one way to distract from the Epstein files. The White House on the brink of unveiling a major new peace agreement with Russia that officials say will finally bring the 2.5-year war with Ukraine to an end. Senior White House official tells the reporter they expect a framework for ending the conflict by all parties by the end of the month, and possibly as soon as this week. That's pretty amazing, but it appears, Dr. Paul, that Steve Witkoff, the president's special envoy, has been meeting with Kiril Dimitriov, who's the Russian negotiator. Now, the thing that's interesting about Dimitriov is he's not some sort of old 1950s, Russian Soviet type. Even though he's been insulted by the Treasury Secretary, by the way, he's very savvy. Goldman Sachs, went to American universities, speaks perfect language, understands America, understands business, understands commerce, and understands trade. So the two of them have been talking and getting along, I guess. That's what the reporting is behind the scenes, and now they're ready to unveil this deal. The only thing missing from the equation is Ukraine, because they haven't been involved
It's
in
their
it. So,
country.
yeah. So it's interesting to see that.
But I think the big thing that'll be a hang-up and a difficulty in solving in that is who gets to distribute the remaining amount of wealth. And there is. The country's in a wreck, of all the destruction, but there's still natural resources there, and that's probably been involved in this whole thing anyway, even though the argument that the Russians have made about what they had expected after the Cold War ended was defiled by, NATO and the United States by marching up to the borders of Russia. And they're probably not going to solve that, but you can't eliminate it. How did it started? Who was responsible for this? And why were they responsible for it? And is it territory they wanted? But I think it'll be the loot that is left over, and that is natural resources, because there wouldn't be so much activity here. But such a waste. Just think they were on their way. They had working pipelines, and they were buying oil from Russia. There was a movement on in the right direction, but that lasted, 5 years maybe, and then all of a sudden this whole thing came apart.
Well, it's the neocons. I mean, they've always wanted to destroy Russia and break it apart. They've been obsessed with this from day one, from even, the Cold War. Under Reagan, when the neocons made their way into the Reagan administration, that was the whole point. That was the whole point of Afghanistan. We're going to give the Soviet Union its own Vietnam. They've been obsessed with this forever. The Poles, Brzezinski, first starting with Carter, and then becoming, this eminence grise later on as a foreign policy. They've been obsessed with this. And now they finally feel like they have their chance to do it, and it's predictably, as with all neocon enterprises, it's flopped. So here's a couple more little things from the article. The mood inside the White House is bullish, and it seems like the plan will be presented to Zelensky as a go forward, I think. Presented to Zelensky as a fait accompli. What we are going to present to Ukraine is reasonable, a senior White House official tells the reporter. The Trump administration thinks Zelensky, this is key, Dr. Paul, under pressure on the battlefield and on the home front due to a burgeoning corruption scandal, will have to accept what's on offer. And as for the rest of Europe, the article says, quote, "We don't really care about the Europeans," the official tells the reporter. It's about Ukraine accepting. It's going to be like the mafia. We're going to make you an offer that you can't refuse.
Yeah, but can you imagine drawing the line in Ukraine? Which part will be controlled and acknowledged that the Russians are going to control this, because most of the people are Russian, and the history of it. It's not going to be very easy drawing that line, and it's at least hopefully a rest from this. A few people could recover, and maybe some families could be resurrected, because they've destroyed so much. And it just goes to show that, that, like I say, the solution is simple. Just get out of the way there. Yes, there'll be trouble over there, but the Europeans aren't going to do anything about it. They're not going to get together. And it's our egging on, and your point is well taken. The Neo, who's running our show? Oh, the Republicans? Oh, no, the Democrats? Oh, no. It's a secret party. It's called the Neocon. That's the Neocon party that seems to do well, and that is a big deal. And even as we speak, we're drumming up business deals galore, where our arms manufacturers get to make a living over this, and there's a lot of I guess a real good statistic would be who made the most money during this war, and who were the losers. Draw a picture of that. List who were the winners and who were the losers. Oh no, everybody loses in a war.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I believe people end up conquering other territories, and at times both sides lose. Eventually, I think you could argue that case, but when this ends, somebody will do it. That's why it's going to be tough. But that's why I think you have to get the money out of the way, and that is not going to be easy. The people who are benefiting, you'd like to. If they put up the proposal, where does the loudest holler and screaming come? Oh no, you can't do this. There's all these reasons. We have to keep working to keep this together, and we'll work it out. So we better just. It's important to us for our national defense. What if the Ukrainians get organized and invade the United States? We better be prepared, and on and on. But they're thinking of their profits, and unfortunately. When we say, darn it, there's another war going on, and we dread it, and they're just probably wringing their hands again.
Well, this whole thing is about, that is about the neocons, but it's also about the hapless Europeans. A Europe completely adrift. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they're going. Hopefully they remember where they've been. I remember growing up when German engineering, the German economy was the pride of the world. If you got something made in Germany, it was amazing. Germany's a basket case. The same is true with France and the UK. They've destroyed their entire industrial base, sending money to Ukraine to do what? To buy golden toilets for the leaders of Ukraine, which is what they've done, and to kill a lot of people. And all of this, you always very, very correctly point out to the origins. They wanted Ukraine in NATO because their goal since the end of the Cold War was to move NATO to Russia's doorstep. And Russia kept saying no, 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 and finally said, no, we really mean it. And that's when they sent in the tanks. We don't want NATO on our doorstep, just like we, the U.S., wouldn't want the Chinese moving their military into Mexico. It's too close. We don't need it. We don't need Chinese missiles aimed toward us from Mexico.
And why don't we point out how we reacted when a fellow by the name of Khrushchev put missiles in Cuba.
Exactly.
I mean, the same thing. And what was the solution? The solution at the time wasn't well known, but later on it was our concession because the Russians said you have too many missiles in Turkey ready to bomb us. And what did Kennedy do? They said they had to be secret because there would be, probably a civil war in this country because nobody would want him to have done it. But they made a deal. Yeah, I'll come out of Turkey, and you guys take it out of Cuba.
Win-win.
It's amazing that it worked out that way. So this is going to last for long, but we still have to look at it, and there has to be bits and pieces. I just can't see where tomorrow we're going to see, they presented it to him, and they all agreed with it.
Yeah.
And Zelensky says, I'm moving to Florida or something.
Yeah, he could. I mean, or follow the rest of his cabinet. They all seem to move to Israel, so they won't be sent back to Ukraine to face charges in the scandal. But we've been very negative with Trump, but if Trump is actually giving the green light to this, Trump and Witkoff, it will be a very good thing for Trump. Trump's in a slump, put it that way. He's got a lot of problems right now. Solving this issue would be a huge, huge point in his favor among the American people, especially if he frames it as, we're out of here, we got it done. What worries me, though, is this came out of left field, that there's this secret deal happening, but we know very well what it's like, or we can imagine what it's like inside Trump's inner circle. You've got all these yapping dogs like Rubio. You've got Keith Kellogg. You've got Lindsey Graham golfing with him every day, yapping in his ear. So it's going to be difficult for him if he actually does something that we can appreciate and support, which is to end this by ending our support for it. He's going to be facing these people. He's going to have to finally stand up to them and say, get out of here, enough is enough.
So it's so easy to criticize Trump, when he preached about American first. And a lot of people now say, well, they throw it back at him. This is not. So you're right. I think politically, if Trump but he's not going to walk away easily. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not conditioned for that. And somebody's going to. I remember LBJ when he allowed so many more Americans died. Oh, thousands and thousands died. He said, "I do not want to be the first president that lost the war."
Yeah.
You know, that attitude, as if they're the only person that counts.
Yeah.
How many other people lost their lives and
Thousands,
everything else?
millions. Well, I got a couple of more things about it. Larry Johnson, our good friend, spoken at our conference before. I highly recommend his Sonar 21 blog. I read it every day. But if you skip ahead to Like a Bad Italian Opera, now he puts a few things on the page here that explain, I think, really why these convergence of forces is happening. Now, this is the reality in Ukraine. He said, Zaporozhye, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Kherson, Kharkiv, Sumy, the Russian ground forces are attacking on all of these locations, which represents about 1,000 miles of territory, stretching from Sumy in the north to Zaporozhye in the south. Russia is inflicting an average of 1,335 casualties a day on Ukrainian forces, which translates to 456,695 losses in 2025 as of November 17th. That is almost 40,000 a month. Add to that the estimated 20 to 40,000 desertions each month. That means Ukraine must recruit a minimum of 60,000 new conscripts each month to maintain its current troop strength. That ain't happening. And he did include a chart. I'm not going to put it up here for the sake of brevity, but he adds another point to this. Because Ukraine is losing, obviously you can see in manpower they're losing. That's why they want to recruit 18-year-olds and destroy any chance of a future generation in Ukraine. But go to that next one. This is still Larry Johnson. He said, meanwhile, back in Kiev, Zelensky ain't home, which is true. He's scampering about Europe, pleading for money, more money. But the Europeans are focused intently on the brewing corruption scandals haunting the Z-Man. There's not a lot of enthusiasm for sending billions of dollars more to Ukraine as key officials in Zelensky's government seek sanctuary in Israel, i.e., you don't get extradited from Israel if you're Jewish, even if major criminal charges hang over your head. Don't blame them if they don't want to get busted. I would go there too. I think at least 3 now senior officials have gone to Israel to avoid being arrested.
But you know, his days are numbered now. But you know, it qualified him not only collecting billions and billions of dollars, but to get the prestige of getting to the U.S. Congress and talking to the Congress, which annoys me to no end.
Yeah.
And also White House appearances with the president. And it's on and on. And that will have to stop. But that's where, you know, they might give in. A guy like Trump is going to give in, and he would, and he should, but he's not going to, you know, I was thinking about Europe. Maybe they should have followed the pattern and the suggestion of how the Swiss made it, you know, trying to stay out of these things. And in the midst of 2 world wars, they still survived as a country, and their country wasn't wiped off the map. But now Ukraine is, and yet there's still a determination, and there's going to be who gets what, and there's not going to be much generosity when that comes about.
Yeah, there's going to be recriminations for sure. And the other thing that's happening is that even the biggest cheerleaders for this ridiculous Project Ukraine and Zelensky in Europe, now they're starting to smell coffee, wake up and smell the coffee. Owen Matthews is a Neocon writer who's had a couple pieces out now. This next one, if you skip to that one with Zelensky's photo. This is in the Telegraph, the Tory paper in the UK, which is very, very pro-war, very, very pro-Ukraine. Even they came out with an article, Zelensky is losing touch with reality. Signing fantasy arms deals Ukraine cannot afford is no answer to the looming political and military crisis. Now go to the next one here, and I'm not going to read it because for time's sake, but the Islander at Islander World on X has a great summary of and explanation of the article that Matthews wrote, and has a very good thesis that it's not Zelensky that's actually losing touch. It's the people who put the war up to the war in the first place who've lost touch. And I'm going to just a couple more on this. This is go to the next one. Now this stuff is happening as we speak. Move forward a couple to that picture. Next picture of Zelensky. One more, I think. Now this is the sprinter on X. The Minister of Energy of Ukraine, Svetlana Grinchuk, accused of major corruption, secretly left the country last night, like literally last night. And go to the next one. This is also Sprinter Press. Special envoy of U.S. President Steve Witkoff refused to meet with the head of Zelensky's office, Andriy Yermak, due to a corruption scandal. They were supposed to meet in Turkey, Dr. Paul, and Witkoff said, "No way, Jose, we're not going to meet. This is blowing up." And I'm just for fun, I'm putting in the last one. Someone that we know put out a post a couple days ago. Go to that next one. Senator Rand Paul, and he commenting on the scandal. He said, "Do you remember when the Ukraine First Uniparty opposed my call for an inspector general for Ukraine? Trump's silent on the $100 million corruption scandal resignations," is what Rand Paul said about this. He doesn't need to remind our viewers, because we remind our viewers what Senator Paul said, and he was right from the beginning.
Yes, unfortunately, they discover these things late after all the damage is being done, and then the repair work requires a whole lot. Just think of the destruction that happened. When will it be rebuilt, and who's going to pay for it? But right away, even if this comes about and it moves in a favorable direction, I think it'll be the United States will be continue to be paying, because they generally repay the buildings that they contributed to destroying.
Yeah.
So if we gave them all that money, but they bought the bombs from us, and now they'll have to see what happens. And I think that will be that could be the ending point when they find out this just isn't working.
Isn't working. Well, people probably wonder why we're not talking about the Epstein vote yesterday. We could have, but there's a lot out there. We can't cover everything in our half an hour every day, but we do want to cover one aspect of it. And if you go to that next one, the Wall Street Journal came out with a piece, How Marjorie Taykor-Greene Alienated Trump. And it's an interesting article. It goes through Marjorie Taykor-Greene. If you go to the next one, here's a quote from Trump back in 2020. "This one I never, ever want to have as my enemy, Marjorie Taykor-Greene." And it's a great quote. But one of Trump's most strident MAGA allies, Greene, is now arguing the president is out of touch with his political base on the economy, foreign policy, and the Jeffrey Epstein case, while painting herself as unapologetically America first. Now, that puts her in Trump's crosshairs for sure.
The switching of policy and switching of tone for the general public is something that our president has participated in. But people see this as hypocrisy. You hear one thing, what the plan is, but I think you could label a lot of politicians that are hypocrites, because it's sort of the name of the game, and they almost pride themselves in, guess what I got away with? That's what they're saying under their breath. This is how I said this. How do you handle it? Oh, what you do is this, and you can get by. But I think hypocrisy is something when it's blatant, and you see some hypocrisy here, that the people get very annoyed about it. Remember the time not too long ago when Pelosi was caught being a hypocrite?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she lost some grounds there, which she never gained. But hypocrisy is very interesting to me, because hypocrisy sounds like he's a hypocrite. He used to like this person, but I don't like that person anymore, and that sort of thing. But this political hypocrisy is lying. I think it's in the category of lying. They take a position and promise all these things, and they're blatant lies. And that's why, probably the number of people in this country that either vote with lack of enthusiasm, or they just plain don't vote, or disgusted with both parties, and that is one of the reasons, because we've run out of steam.
Yeah.
Our country's run out of steam. Interventionism has run out of steam, and the people are restless. Moral and financial bankruptcy is not tolerable. That's what we're paying back. And a lot of people don't quite understand that. All we need is more price controls, or send everybody a $2,000 check that we just took, we just forced on the public and made their prices go up. So we'll give $2,000 back to everybody and make everybody happy. But we'll find out where our friends are so that we can make sure they get their check.
Yeah, you think about the hypocrisy, surrounding Trump's relationship with Marjorie Taykor-Greene. I mean, here's a person, she defended him vehemently on Stop the Steal, on January 6th, stalwart supporter of Trump on the MAGA routine, on America First, completely. But then it came to this, and she was, I think she actually even voted for the big, beautiful bill. She was still there on that with Trump. But when it came to the Epstein, with him blocking it, saying it was a hoax, that's where she broke with him. And for that, she's been treated very badly indeed by the president. Put that one back up that starts with this one. It was just up there, if you can. I just want to read this one thing that Trump has said. The public drama has been ramping up for weeks, but it peaked in recent days. Trump is publicly attacking her as, quote, a ranting lunatic, dubbing her Marjorie Taykor-Greene. He not only unendorsed Greene, but he said he would back a primary challenger to run against her in 2026. That would make the second Republican, the first being Thomas Massie, that he's actually attacking. So instead of worrying about keeping the Republican majority in the House and Senate, he's actually trying to get Republicans unelected, which is not very helpful to the party if you're a party person. But I did find the clip of Marjorie Taykor-Greene. This is from yesterday when the Epstein vote was successful, even though supposedly there's no Epstein, according to Trump. Here's her responding to the comments that the president made to her. You might want to grab that earpiece, Dr. Paul, and listen in on that first clip. This is a press conference she did, I think, right after the Massie petition passed in the House.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me.
Pretty strong statement from her.
Well, that's the point. Tired of hypocrisy.
Tired of hypocrisy.
It changes people's minds,
Yeah.
which is a real tragedy. But when people change their mind and based on principle, it should be lauded.
Yes,
because
exactly.
And I've had some interesting conversations and people who changed, thinking about foreign policy. A few, not many, wouldn't brag about it.
Walter Jones,
but a few
our good
would
friend,
come, and because they finally saw the truth from various sources, that they switched their policies. They didn't just keep on fibbing in order to keep getting the money from the military-industrial complex. They did, and I think pointing these hypocritical movement. Well, that was a very, very strong statement that she just gave. I mean, that was very, very, very discreet and right, and she was right on the target of that. That has this whole mess is not going to help Trump. Can he recover and do it? Maybe, probably. He's recovered from things that most people at the beginning thought were a little bit off the record. You know?
Yeah. But he's got to clear the air here. He's got to fix. Now, if he fixes Ukraine, that's great. Fixes this problem. We're out of the war. That would be a great thing. He also needs to mend the fences with both of these two. If I were giving him advice, and I'm not, and I probably won't be asked to, I would have him invite the two of them, Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taykor-Greene, to the White House for a private meeting. Sit down, talk it out. If it works out well, invite the media in. at least give the appearances that the fences are mended, and let's move forward together to make America great again, blah, 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 blah. Perfect. He needs to do that. This is not helping him at all, because I think the people are siding, we've talked about so many of the polls, the people are siding more with Marjorie Taykor-Greene, more with Thomas Massie, more with Rand Paul on these issues than they are right now with the changed Donald Trump, the Donald Trump that's changed from what he was promising.
Where his real challenge is going to be is the Middle East.
Yeah, no
because
kidding.
she was with him on all that he was doing, but all of a sudden her attitudes have changed on that.
Yes.
And she sees that that is hardly part of being loyal to America first by what we have to do and what we have been doing in the Middle East. So that will be a thorn. If he could do already, you gave him good instructions so far, and I'm sure he'll do that for you.
Yeah, let's hold
He's
our
going
breath.
to do that. Then we have to advise him on the Middle East, and that is, if you think Ukraine is a big one, the Middle East is a much bigger.
Yeah, it is, and much more difficult. Well, anyway, I'm going to close out Dr. Paul. I will say something. I've been in touch with Marjorie Taylor-Greene's people, and we want to have her on the show. So if you're interested in that, drop us a comment under this today's show and let us know. But I would look forward to. I think she'd be great to talk to. I've come to admire her very, very much, and we look forward to making that happening. Hopefully. But in the meantime, if you'll go ahead as I'm doing right this moment and click that thumbs up, click the like. Share the link with everyone, put it up on social media, comment on it when you see it on social media, go to Ron Paul's X account at Ron Paul and repost it, comment on it, get it a little bit of extra exposure. We certainly appreciate that. It doesn't take much time. It doesn't cost a penny. Over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. Thank you. And certainly we wish the best on this effort to bring about peace. We believe that there may be some honest change of policies at the White House out of necessity, just because of the way events are going, and that we have to encourage. I keep talking about the difficulties, and a much more simple answer to all these kind of problems is prevention. That's the best in medicine. Use preventative medicine. Believe me, it's much better than waiting until everybody does the wrong thing for themselves. And yet we don't do it that way, and then we try to extract ourselves from a war. Just look how long it took. Like 20 years to get out of Afghanistan. In the Middle East, we're still at these places. So it's a basic principle of non-intervention, mind our own business, and we would need it for moral reasons, constitutional reasons, and for practical reasons. They're all on our side of non-intervention. People say, oh, you're a bunch of isolationists. That's horrible. That'll make things worse. Well, I don't think you can make it worse, because it's a mess. It's constant fighting and serving the special interests. So I believe so sincerely that non-intervention was the goal that the founders wanted and tried, and warned us that it wouldn't be easy. So I still will keep talking about this, about the non-interventionism in all realms of the political system. I believe the people in this country would be better off, and this has to be done with a sense of urgency, because things are changing rather rapidly. We're living in a time when there's major changes going on, and we have to do our best to get information to people to be able to defend and not sound like a hypocrite, to defend the Constitution like so many people have taken an oath to follow. So I want to thank all our viewers for turning in and participating in this effort. Please come back soon.